Hey guys, MC Stu here. Today I am going to walk you through installing and setting up the Parse software that most of us are using. It is SCM, which is STO Combat Meter. I'll show you where to download that. I'll have the link down in the description, as well as a little bit of command line, I guess command line that you'll need to also use to make it easier to use, I guess is the best way to put it. So let's just jump right into it and you'll see what I'm talking about here. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to set the game up first is what we're going to do. So you're going to get your launcher up, and the first thing we want to do is go into options here. Scroll down, and in the command line prompt, we are going to type in -NoAutoRotateLog. And to be honest, I don't know all the ins and outs about this, but apparently the game every hour or so rotates logs or creates new log files, and that can mess up the parsing software, the combat log. And so by putting this in, it just keeps one log that doesn't rotate. So you're going to want to do that, and then go ahead and click save. And then let's go ahead and launch the game here. And once the game is up, what we're going to do is we're going to turn on combat logs. We're needing to do this before we install the software. I mean, we can install the software now, but before we can complete the setup on the software, we need the game to generate a combat log so that we can tell the software where it needs to be pulling from, and it'll remember that location. So I find to keep the video kind of easy and straightforward, we're just going to fully set up the game, and then we'll go ahead and install the parsing software. So those things are all there, so we're not jumping back and forth. Okay, we are in game. We have put the command line into the launcher. Now what we need to do is tell the game that we want to record our combat anytime that there is combat. So to do that, we are going to go /combat, combat log, and the number 1. So this is turning on the combat log recording within the game. Now what we need to do is engage in some combat in order for this log to be generated for the first time. Let's go ahead. I'm sitting in Defira here, so I'm just going to jump down, shoot a couple Borg, and then we will jump back up into space. And you can do this anywhere, and you'll only need to do this first time. So when you log into the game, you will need to turn on the combat log every time to tell the game, go ahead and record any combat that I do, and then you can just, you don't have to turn it off. It just turns itself off when you log out of the game for the day. And then when you log back in again, you'll need to turn it back on again. So basically, you'll need to turn that on every time you log into the game. Let's run over here and do a little bit of damage. Okay, there we go. We got some Borg dying, and dying. Perfect. Okay, so we entered combat. We did some damage, so there should be a log now generated. So I'm going to go ahead and beam back up, and let's go ahead and jump out of the game, and then we'll look at the software. So just to recap, we put a command line into the launcher that tells the game not to rotate logs, so there's always just one log that the game is writing to add your combat for each instance that you have combat. And then we got into the game, we turned on the combat log with the /combat log /1, and then we engaged in some combat so the game would actually generate the log. You only need to do that the first time when you set it up. So going forward, again, all you'll have to do is when you log into the game, you will just turn the combat log on and you are good to go. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to come over to this Dropbox page, and we're going to go ahead and download. There is a user guide. I did review this when prior to making this video, and it's laid out very well, has good information in there. So if you have further questions, you can certainly refer to that. You can also throw those down in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer those for you. So we're going to go ahead and download this. I'm going to do a direct download. Yeah, I got a lot of crap in here. So let's go ahead and unzip this file. Okay, now that that's unzipped, we're going to go ahead and install the software. This is something that was made by the community years ago by SOB and Sarcasm Detector and a few others. So it's it's obviously not on the Windows approved list. So you will need to go ahead and click that and click Run anyways. Okay, so we have the reader open. Now what we need to do is we need to find our combat log. So next what we're going to do is we're going to take the software, it's sitting here, and we're going to say that, what are we going to do? We're going to browse, we want to find the path for our combat log. And this is going to save it in this software. And let's find that here real quick. So that should be, and this may vary where this is depending on where you have the game installed. So C drive. And I believe it is in the, by default, it should be in the x86. Yep, and there it is. We're going to go Star Trek Online again, live, and then we are going to go logs. And then game client. Okay, so let's find the log that we need here. Here we go. So you're going to scroll down until you find combat log. You can see this was just created just as we went ahead and engaged in that combat. We're going to open that. Now it's reading the combat log, and so it picked up somebody else's combat that was real close to us there, somewhere on Defira fighting the Borg, and it shows that I did almost almost 2,000k damage, which is pretty damn good for ground. That it doesn't mean anything because my combat time was only 5 seconds, so I went in, popped a couple things, and left. So in any case, so going forward, what you'll do is, let's say you've done all this, you're all set up, and you decide I'm done playing for the day, I'm gonna log out. So you're gonna log into the game, you're gonna go ahead and type in /combat log 1, and you are good to go. You go ahead and run a TFO, you get done with that TFO, and you know what, why don't we go ahead and just run one real quick so we can see what that looks like. Why is that doing that to me? All right, let's see how we do. I'm done. Let's be done with that. I hate how that pops up twice. Keyboard doesn't seem to be as loud as my other one. Tend to always go, I'm being extra careful since we're recording this. I tend to go back in a little too soon, and that wave messes me up, especially in a ship like this. Last one. There we go. First place. All right. Oh, accolade too. Very nice. All right, let's grab that and let's get out of here. And let's take a look at the parse log. All right, so now that we've completed combat, see if this will let me tab out, will it? Yep, there we go. Okay, we got our parse log up, and so we've finished that TFO, and what we're gonna do is go ahead and hit Analyze Log. So you can see Crystalline C, and here is everybody that was in the match. You will find in some instances, if you get too far away from other players, it won't capture the correct damage for them. So if you're running with a friend and you're both wanting to, get, check your parses. If you get too far away from each other, whoever's parsing that, if you're both parsing it, you may find that your individual times are times and damage is a little bit different from the other person. So just bear that in mind. For yourself, obviously, it's always gonna be fine there. So this shows a breakdown of everybody's DPS, this damage per second. There's a couple different ways of viewing this, so you can see, it as a line graph, the spikes, those kinds of things. At a nice one at the beginning there. And then you can also see spikes here in more of a bar graph kind of design. You'll get information down on the table. This is kind of high level information for everybody on the team. So, most of the time we're looking at things like how long was the combat, because the combat and then your overall damage is what calculates out to make your DPS, your damage per second. If you were a tank, you're looking at things like damage in, and how many attacks in that you've had, and how many people died, how many times did they die, those kinds of things. So there's a lot of information just on this high level table. If you want to drill down into it, and this is where it gets really nice when you're playing with your build, you're seeing if things make a difference when you're making changes, is you can click on this button here that I just did, Player Combat Analysis Report, and go ahead and select yourself. Where am I? Omega. There we go. And so what this will do is this will show you very detailed information about your abilities, your weapons, those kinds of things. So on this go around here, it is telling me that I had 15k DPS from my pets. Now I don't have any pets on this, so there are items that show up as pets. So the, is that from the, I think that's Let It Go or Very Cold in Space that generates that. I can't see it on here. Isolatic Terrors, there's all kinds of different things that will show up as a pet. So generally there's some sort of effect, a dot, something like that, that's gonna show up. Or if you do have hanger pets, they're gonna show up here as well. So if we go back to player, which is me, you can go further down the list here, so you can see Pulse Phaser Dual Beam Banks, and this is, I have 3 of them on the ship. And Beam Overload did 9k damage, Dark Matter Lace Torpedo, Quantum Torpedo, 7k, and the list goes on. So it's going to break down all the different abilities, clickies, kinds of weapons, and those kinds of things, and then give you stats on all of those. So let's just look at the second one down, because the pets are always kind of a weird thing. But it'll show you how many attacks you had with that, what your critical rate was with that. You can scroll over and it gets real detailed about the base damage, how many kills that weapon did, and it just goes on and on and on. Up at the top, you have some good information, more kind of high level, specifically on yourself, similar to what's on the main page there when you pull this log. So it's going to give you your DPS. It's going to talk about the kind of threat you're generating here, your combat time, your maximum 1-hit, target debuff, how many attacks you had, your hit rate, critical chance overall, or your critical severity, how many of your shots. So 56% of the time of me doing damage were critical hits, which is pretty decent, especially on this free-to-play account. how many times I died, how many kills I got, my hit by rate. So again, if I'm a tank, I want this hit by rate to be high. I want my threat per second to be high. So like on my tanks, you're generally going to be getting, 24 to 28,000 on this number here. You can look at your hull damage and drill down into all this other stuff here. So a lot of really good information that you can pull from this. It's extremely helpful if you're tweaking your builds, or you're deciding I'm going to just do something that I've just made up, because you can do that and you can make things that work. And this software is going to help you know for sure what's working, what's not working. And I will warn you too, when you do make changes to your ship, do a few runs, because I'll make changes or I'll do something somebody suggests. I do a run and it's crap. Well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons a run can be crap, or maybe it was a good run, but that weapon just didn't fire as much that time around or something. So make sure when you're making changes and you're using this software, do it a couple times. Make sure you get kind of an average of, because you might find that first time it wasn't real good, but the next 2-3 times it was very good. Yeah, and it's something worth keeping. Always kind of double check those results. It's not because the software got it wrong, it's because of RNG in the game. That's just how it works. And depending on what kind of change you did, it may be you got to get used to that, piloting different, activating things different. So kind of a little side note there, advice when you're doing that. So that's pretty much the software. Like I said, there's a lot of info. You can dig in and play with this, and it's extremely, extremely helpful for really knowing what's going on. If you're interested in that, if you're not interested in that, then obviously this video is not for you, and that is totally fine. As I say every time, this game is here to have fun, and how you choose to do that is entirely up to you. As always, if this video is helpful, I encourage you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, ring the bell. I would really appreciate it. And until next time, everybody stay safe and thank you.